Dota 2 fans, and welcome to our second best of 3 of the day. This is SLTV Pro Series Season 11. Balkan Bears Corleone versus Moscow 5 International. I am Maurice Pease, your resident Canadian Dota 2 caster, joined by Mike Loris. We are HeflaTV. You saw it here first, guys. PyLi standing in for BBC, formerly of C9. Mike, how excited are you for this matchup?
And just because C9 are always playing on a different level of the games that we usually see, I don't get to cast C9 ever, and I don't get to cast any of C9's members ever, so I guess this is a nice transition over into it. But yeah, PyLi standing in, definitely not the person I would expect here, but BBC, though they are running with technically 2 other stand-ins, Yapzor and Massacre, pretty much on the team at this point, so BBC going under quite a transformation, and we'll see how they are able to perform against Moscow 5 International, who've been, transforming forever now. But both of these 2 teams extremely solid, and both these 2 teams extremely capable. So it's you can only hope for a good one. Tidehunter first pick, rather bland to start things off, but you know what? It's fine because it's a Tidehunter, and he's never really going to be bad.
Yeah, Slander does play this very well. They'd let the Mapo slip through. Weehaw going to be playing on the Meepo. Padrino absolutely cancerous on this Broodmother as well, and really ill-advised from M5, letting these 2 core signature heroes through to BBC. And they're going to go with their bread and butter here. Yeah, PyLi, there were rumors that actually Simba or Fly, as well as PyLi, Weehaw, Excalibur, and one more, I can't quite remember, Ohani, were practicing all for BBC, but I tweeted that at BBC and they quickly shut down those rumors. But PyLi seems to have been practicing seriously with the team now, and even perhaps hinting that maybe he's going to move forward from C9, as we have seen Misery as well as Big Daddy No Tail standing in the support roles for C9 as of late. But either way, you guys got a treat here. You're going to see PyLi and a Weehaw Meepo in this game 1. Can Moscow 5 do anything to stop Weehaw's Meepo, Mike?
Man, I don't want to say that the Weehaw Meepo is impossible to deal with. I'm going to say that even if you pick up a Meepo first, if you're BBC, you can reasonably assume that the Meepo is going to do well just because it's Weehaw on Meepo. He always does so insanely well on this hero. I don't know how he does it. He just does. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see, and especially picking this Meepo first into a Tidehunter. Like, usually you see Tides in response to Meepo just because Anchor Smash is freaking fantastic against the hero. Ravage is amazing versus the hero as well, but clearly BBC, they aren't scared. Like, they'll pick up Meepo, they'll pick up Broodmother, 2 heroes that are really bad up against Tidehunter just because they are so comfortable with it. That takes balls, and maybe they're just that comfortable with these heroes, but either way, it's going to be a tough climb for BBC just looking at these heroes in and of itself. If it was any other team not BBC picking up these heroes, I would say this is a god-awful start.
Yeah, definitely so. They pick up the Witch Doctor. The bouncing on the Death Ward, not bad if he's able to get up the Aghanim's upgrade once again against the Meepo. But either way, maybe we see something like a Sven come out from Moscow 5 International. I've heard Wee himself say he's not too happy about dealing with the Sven when he plays with the Meepo. Also very good versus the Spiderlings with that great cleave. So we'll see if they leave that in the pool. Venge, Axe, Brew are going to be the bans from BBC. Axe, for obvious reasons, deals very well with the Broodmother and well versus the Meepo in addition, so definitely a smart, wise ban from BBC there. Skywrath, Jakiro, 2 very strong supports, just going to be banned out here from M5 as the 2 cores, 1 position and mid, have already been picked up from BBC.
Alright, so we got a couple of bans out, just safe support heroes from Moscow 5, whereas they themselves already have the Witch Doctor, who is also one of those very safe support heroes. The last, I would say, safe support hero is the Vengeful Spirit, first banned out by BBC, so they don't have to worry about that one being picked up. But already Moscow 5, they have 2 heroes that are good against Meepo, or at least capable versus the Meepo, and well, I guess Witch Doctor a little bit less so versus the Broodmother. But Cask is a pain in the ass for Meepo. It's really hard to move them around when you just can't move anyone. Like, they're stunned forever, and then when Aghanim's Scepter Death Ward comes up, if it does come up at all, going to be very difficult for the Meepo to deal with. Ember Spirit going to be the last ban out from the BBC side, just trying to get as much protection as they possibly can for the Meepo and Broodmother. But I mean, this isn't really what we usually see from BBC. If they do pick up the Meepo, then it's usually near the end of the draft, or it's just flat out banned out by the enemies. That's also pretty common. But you have to take some pretty serious precautions whenever you pick up a hero like Meepo in the first pick slot, because it's very clear what your plan is going to be.
Yeah, Ember Spirit, definitely a smart ban here. Sleight of Fist does certainly deal well with the Meepo. They'll pick up the Dazzle here, so not the best hero overall, but the Shadow Wave does extreme amounts of damage once you get the Aghanim Scepter on Meepo. Have a lot of units around there for that physical damage nuke, and they can bring down a lot of heroes very early. We saw the other day, Ember Spirit actually pretty susceptible to that physical damage nuke, but still not willing to take the Grand Cleave from the Ember and the Sleight of Fist Searing Chains combo into their Meepo. Just drafting around Weehaw at this point. Padrino will certainly do his thing in the off lane. He's very effective at it, and they could even run him in the safe lane with an aggro try, and he is absolutely a presence and a force to be reckoned with on this Brood. So really, the supports are just going to look to buff up and keep up the Meepo and the Broodmother here. That's really all BBC needs. And Moscow 5, I don't know if they've done their homework, but they let through two very vital heroes to BBC's recent success, and we'll see what they end up picking up, at least here for Yapzor, Massacre, and Pilot Eye, who will probably be on this Dazzle. But they will pick up the Queen of Pain, and the pure damage from the Sonic Wave, pretty good with against Meepo, definitely good versus the Broodmother and her Spiderlings.
It's the pure damage that'll cut through that additional resistance of Meepo, but also just having anything that does AoE damage is, you know, you're going to be dealing with a lot of units. And the burst damage of Queen of Pain, though it's not necessarily up to Zeus standards, it still is more than enough to cut through the likes of a Broodmother or Meepo, or at the very least the couple of illusions or clones or Spiderlings, or those other side units that BBC are going to be working with. So Queen of Pain is just another one of those cogs that M5 are going to be picking up, so that they have pretty much as good of a chance as they possibly can get when it does come to a versus Meepo and Broodmother matchup. But BBC, they're going to grab the Legion Commander as their as their last core. So far, there's no huge synergy with the Legion Commander except for Dazzled, I guess, Shallow Graving Legion Commander, so you can't lose the duel. But this is a hero that BBC used to run quite a bit, though I don't know if I've seen them run this hero with the Mascara Yapzor incarnation of BBC. So I can only assume it's going to be played on the offlane, as that's what they usually run for Legion Commander with the Meepo mid. But who knows, with these newish players, they could juggle it around as much as they want.
Yeah, more than likely will be in the offlane, maybe with an aggressive try and leave Padrino all by himself. He's certainly very proficient on the Brood and will be able to at least survive, if not disrupt, the flow of things for Moscow 5. They'll pick up the Sand King here, another hero deals decently well with the Meepo. A lot of AoE offered by the Burrow Strike, as well as the Epicenter. Can retreat to the jungle and farm fairly well. Does have the Paralyzing Cast from the Witch Doctor to encroach upon his enemies with that Gimp range on the Burrow Strike at level 1. So pretty decent roaming combo there. They still needs a hard hitter for Moscow 5. There will be a ban before then from BBC. Perhaps they take out something like the Sven or the PA. PA not as good, quite as good as Sven versus the Meepo, but either way, both heroes pretty darn good, and they're still left in the pool, so we'll see what BBC bans out here. Legion Commander deals fairly well with the PA, especially have you some magic damage to supplement that, but the Skywrath Mage was banned out, so they won't have that combination to duel into Mystic Flare. But it'll be interesting to see how BBC rounds out this lineup.
Yeah, the duel, much like how Chronosphere works, is something that you want to funnel damage in. You could very easily get some poof damage into there, but that's not really going to be a very reliable way at getting those dual kills. And Dazzle, as far as support heroes go, is relatively lackluster unless you could somehow get a surround with your random units, the Meepo clones, the Broodmother Spiders, and then nuke them down with Shadow Wave. Now that can do some serious damage, but it requires so much setup, and it's really a lot more difficult than it should be for BBC. So looking for one more support hero is the BBC side, and it should be someone who could just really just dump damage in no matter what. But the two most common heroes that do that, Witch Doctor on the other team, Skywrath Mage banned out. The pickings are fairly slim unless they want to go down a little bit more of an alternative route. Maybe grab something like a Leaner or something like that. But Io's banned out from M5. A very common pickup for BBC, partnered up with the Legion Commander. Don't know how viable it was in this particular game, but either way, not going to matter since it's no longer in the pool. For Moscow 5, he said they need a hard hitter. They need someone to deal with a little bit more AoE. I'm more inclined to say that they're going to go for a PA because that's more how they roll. But again, they could go for anything right now as long as it's someone to offer a sustained amount of damage, because Queen of Pain does do a pretty good job at that, but she needs a long time to do the amount of damage that a little character like PA can do in a matter of seconds. Lion is a pickup for BBC.
Yeah, so they'll grab Lion here, so that'll dissuade Moscow 5 from going any illusion-based heroes like the Naga or the TB. It's also just kind of your jack-of-all-trades support. Does offer quite a bit of disable in the Earth Spike and the Hex. Also, the burst damage offered. It does deal well with the Legion Commander duel. You can bring down targets fairly quickly, especially those like the Queen of Pain, who does rely on her blink to a certain extent to keep survivable. They ban out the Storm Spirit here. I've heard Weehaw personally say on his stream, Storm Spirit, one of the heroes he hates playing against most on the Meepo. Actually, all three spirits in the Earth Storm and Ember deal pretty well with the Meepo, and they will pick up the Dusa here. So spread damage carry versus the Meepo, a very tanky carry as well, but the physical damage is going to be pretty real from this Shadow Wave, and I do worry for this Dusa. And also, they're going to need to create space for the Dusa, but in the meantime, Padrino may be able to get his split push on, so it will be interesting to see how Moscow 5 fares versus this cancerous lineup from BBC.
And they got stuff running around every which way at BBC, and well, Medusa is a decent pickup versus what BBC have. Again, the split shot is probably not going to be a huge priority as far as killing off all the Meepo clones at the same time. Generally want to focus one down, and then we'll just be happy with that. But as far as clearing out what Broodmother has to offer, Medusa is a carry hero that can do that, and that can do that from a very low level. It is certainly within their own possibility, though, to see BBC burst down that Medusa every single time very quickly, at least until Moscow 5 bring this game into a very late game, which seems like it is going to be their plan unless something drastic changes beforehand. But as far as protecting this Medusa, Moscow 5 definitely have enough of what it takes. Queen of Pain is a huge action hero in the early stage of the game. Sand King, if he gets a fast blink dagger, that is just backbreaking for BBC, or any team really. So it's just a matter of time of getting this Medusa protected farm, whereas for BBC, they just want to get a little bit of farm on this Meepo, get this Broodmother going, and then they'll see what they can get from there. But we're just going to see who's going to load up into these lanes for BBC. Mass Carry is going to be playing the Legion Commander up towards the top lane. As you said, Pylai Dai, the stand-in for BBC. He's going to be playing the Dazzle, joining the Legion Commander for now. Wee is going to be playing his signature Meepo over in the mid lane. Nothing too exciting there, or nothing too different there. Yapsor is going to be playing the Lion support, and Drinho is on the Broodmother.
Yeah, and for the side of Moscow 5 going towards the top lane, PGG, please go game, going to be playing on the Witch Doctor screen, going to be playing on his Sand King. He's pretty damn comfortable on that hero. Stand-in Glorious Warrior for ZXC is playing on the Medusa in the one role, the same role ZXC plays. Necroman in the mid on the Queen of Pain. Slander going to be playing on what is a signature hero for him in the Tidehunter. I've seen him make some pretty brilliant plays on this hero. They will find the Bounty Rune for screen in the top lane. Yapsor will pick it up in the bottom. So to position 4 is going to grab that Bounty Rune, and we will have Padrino blocking up the lane. So it looks like duels here from BBC, and we will have the defensive tri-lane from Moscow 5.
And this is kind of by necessity. As I said before, Tidehunter just really good at handling, first of all, any versus melee matchup in a 1v1 scenario, but Broodmother is, first of all, not doing a whole lot of damage herself, and her Spiderling's not going to do too much to the Tidehunter either, so they kind of need someone here to give the Broodmother a little bit of help in the lane. Doesn't necessarily have to be poking help, but could just be pulling to maintain control of this creep wave. Regardless, this is the weakness of BBC's decision to just slam pick two very comfortable heroes that are very easily countered. So the Tidehunter should have a very good time down in this bottom lane, and something we don't ordinarily see. Generally, Tidehunters nowadays are a lot more shut down than what we're going to be seeing from this particular game. But over towards mid, it's Wee versus the Queen of Pain, and every single time I say Meepo doesn't have a good matchup in the mid lane, and I still hold true to that, but Wee finds a way, so I'm going to just say the lane is even.
Yeah, Shadow Strike opted for here from Necroman. He's going to look for a little bit more lane control, but Wee always seems to find his farm on this Meepo, and he can always retreat to the jungle where he'll probably have some stacks set for him, and he will definitely recover and find his farm. Either way, Padrino should be a little bit of a nuisance. Slander playing that role right now, gonna disrupt the pull a bit, finds a range creep. He's already got his level 2.5, 6 CS for him on his way to level 3. Massacre not doing quite as well in the offlane. PyLi has abandoned him for the time being, does have 2 sentries, probably gonna ward up these camps for screen so that he may not be able to farm them as the Sands King screen. Gonna run forward and put a few right clicks into Massacre. He'll catch an overwhelming odds in the face. PyLi will grab up 2 camps and sentry them for the time being, and there's some nice deep vision here for Slander. He knows exactly that Yapzor has rotated out of lane to find this illusion rune, and Yapzor will deny that from the mid laner in Necroman, but top rune also secured by PyLi and BBC on the rune control at the time being. Burrow Strike goes out onto Massacre in the top lane. Cask is available, but there's nothing for it to bounce to at the time, so they'll just put some harass into the LC. PyLi will rotate. He'll be scouted out by PGG on the high ground, and that'll stave off any aggression from either side at this point.
This is going to be one of those games where PyLi or the Dazzle player, really no matter who it is, isn't really going to have a clear course of action in this game. He would like to stay up towards top lane and help out the Legion Commander, but really what could a Dazzle do up against this tri-lane? He could try to get into a right-click war, but if he gets a little bit too confident in his ability to do so, suddenly there's a Cask, and then the Burrow Strike follow-up, and then things get really bad for PyLi. He's going to be playing that role that we see very often from Earthshakers, where they just roam around, just play a very defensive role, trying to gain experience here and there, and Dazzle doesn't really have an item that he needs to pick up. Obviously, more items equals a better time, but he's not really farming for Blink Dagger. Over towards bottom lane, Slander actually taking quite a bit of damage. There is not enough mana for the Broodmother to cast the Spiderling Injection, but she doesn't even need it. Padrino, with the help of Yapzor, gonna take down the Tidehunter. Hex level 1 is a ridiculous skill. 2.5 seconds with the point-click disable, and Meepo also killing Queen of Pain. Of course, I had to look away from Meepo for just a second, and as soon as I do, it's a kill on a Queen of Pain who should not be dying to a Meepo with that blink unless he gets chain netted perfectly, and I can only assume that's what happened.
Yeah, we caught it on camera. We doing we things. Picking off Necroman in the mid lane. Already picked up that level 5. He's got that second Meepo in tow for a couple of minutes now, and he's looking really good in this mid lane. Slander getting a little bit too overconfident in that bot lane. 1v1 versus Padrino. Yapzor able to rotate in and punish him for that. 2-0 is your score. 4 minutes in for BBC. Massacre starting to recover fairly well. Found his level 4. He's about at the same XP interval as this Tide in the bot lane, and things looking good all around for BBC. PyLi a bit under leveled, looking to find his level 3 here. Will find a bounty rune, and that may eclipse that level 3 mark, and he barely does here, so that's very nice for the Dazzle. He'll be able to get up that first point perhaps in Poison Touch. He's actually going to look to max out the Shadow Wave, and definitely warranted with a Meepo on your side.
So something that we see pretty often from Wii is the fact that he will grab his level 1 Divided We Stand and then just go into the jungle. Oh, but he's actually going to go for more blood towards Necroman. Huge physical nuke from PyLi from long range. That's a level 2 Shadow Wave, and the poof damage surprising the crap out of Queen of Pain. Gets the kill, and his Meepo is going to be just fine. Usually, I was going to say, he usually shuffles out of lane, leaves the mid lane to one of his support players, and then just jungles up for his for the next couple of minutes and grabs the Aghanim Scepter, but I guess if you're farming heads in the middle lane and farming creeps, there's no reason to do that. PyLi with the physical damage nuke at the Shadow Wave. I said before, it requires a lot of setup, but if you do manage to set up with a couple of units surrounding, then Shadow Wave does a deceptively huge amount of damage, and it's something that the enemies oftentimes don't expect.
Yeah, and we are already level 7 on this Meepo. He's got one Meepo back in base healing up. He's going to bring that in very shortly here and probably grab up his full treads. He does do so, but meanwhile PGG and the Medusa in the top lane are able to pick off Massacre, so that's a nice, must have gotten some good bounces there. Looks like a level 2 Maledict with the Snake and just the level 1 caster able to pick off that LC, so they'll get on the board. 3-1 is your score, but certainly Weehaw a force to be reckoned with already, sitting at the top of the net worth chart alongside Padrino at 2,500 net worth.
And screen at this point, level 3 Sand King. He wants to be going into his jungle and stacking and clearing. He got roughed up by a sentry ward, and sentries, for whatever reason, do give true sight to neutrals, so they can hit you when you're sandstorming or if you're invisible for any other reason. Now the sentries are down, so it's possible for the Sand King to get going, but and it's just so dangerous knowing that PyLi is always pros very aggressively towards the mid lane. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from that jungle, and if he does see a sandstorm brewing, then Meepo is going to rejoin that fight very, very quickly. We also see Yapzor actually leaving the bottom lane and he maybe is looking to help set up onto Necroman right now. Once you're netted, you can't run, and Necroman's now netted. Here comes one poof, here comes another. Burrow Strike is available. Sonic Wave is going to fly, but it's a little bit too late for Necroman. He's already down screen, getting in there with the Burrow Strike, but it's again too late. Wee gets to live with all of his meepos, and he's actually going to look for a little bit more. Net not available, though. He's going to run straight into Slander. There's a Ravage here. It's an Hex, though, from Yapzor, and they're going to cleanly disengage. Wee poofing all the way over towards the mid lane, gets healed up by the Dazzle, and that's going to be a clean in and out. And Mass Carry up towards top. He's going to be aggressed upon, but even with level 2 Maledict, the straight TP out from Legion Commander is going to buy her passage to safety. 4-1 now, BBC. This meepo is, you know, some next level stuff, and everyone knows about it. There are stories that are told, but you kind of have to see it for yourself. Glorious Warrior up towards top, getting aggressed by Padrino, forcing out the Stone Gaze, not really with the intention of getting the kill there, the Medusa, but still it's mana that the Medusa is not going to have to survive down the line, and any sort of pressure you could apply to the Medusa, even though it may not necessarily get a kill, is worthwhile.
Yeah, they'll swap Massacre and Padrino from the safe lane to the op lane, give the Legion Commander some space to find her level 6 Padrino. Already a little bit scary at this point. Blink out from Necroman. He's going to barely make it away from the double Earthbind from Weehaw, and Necroman really shaking in his boots at this point. 0-3-0 on the Queen of Pain. We talked about it earlier in the first series, how underwhelming a Queen of Pain can be without some farm. And there's TPs inbound, but they bring down Glorious Warrior. Padrino deep behind enemy lines is going to find out. He's going to try to go on PGG too. He's also tree walking here, and they'll be ticked down to the spawn. Spiderling screen maybe next to fall. He's already used this Burrow Strike. Padrino going really deep for this one. Rotations are inbound from Necroman. He'll get the Shadow Strike off spawn. Spiderlings though going to find the kill, and Padrino going to look to man up here. He doesn't have his ultimate though, so he can't use that insatiable hunger to man up versus the Queen of Pain, but he will get that web regen underneath the Shadow Strike. Will be able to salve up as well, and he's just doing what he does on this hero and absolutely just becoming a presence, forcing the team to commit over to his lane, and it gives space to the other heroes. Massacre about to find his level 6 on the Legion.
And if you're pretty much any hero from Moscow 5, most of the damage done there was through Spiderlings, and it's very easy for some heroes to clean out those spiders, but not for the heroes that were up there. Sand King with only 2 points in the Sandstorm and Burrow Strike can't really do a great deal to them. The Witch Doctor can do absolutely nothing but throw a cask and cross his fingers. So Padrino did most of the damage with those units, and again, those Spiderlings do a crap ton of damage, especially if they're all clumped up. It's impossible to know really how many there are until you get hit by them, and then at that point you're pretty much already dead, so it's a little bit too late. So Broodmother getting a solo triple kill up on the top lane, and right now they're going to just shuffle the Tidehunter down over towards there, and we'll try to make something happen as far as brick walling that Brood, but there are still webs in the middle, in the bottom lane. It's not impossible to see Padrino move from top to bottom and get more action happening there. In the meantime, they lose the Legion Commander, probably the hero who's having a worse time on the BBC side, but all their other gears are firing at full speed, and now they're going to go for Glorious Warrior. One poof, double poof, Finger of Death, because why not? Medusa's down, and Wee's going to collect a triple killing spree.
Yeah, and they fingered the Medusa for good measure. Sonic Wave was committed bottom, so that is off cooldown for quite a while after picking off that Legion Commander, but certainly not the biggest net worth target there in the LC. She's sitting pretty much at 7th overall, so not looking very good, even underneath Yapzor after that mid lane assist there. So the LC, not the biggest worry for BBC right now. Padrino doing very well, full tread, Soul Ring, Aquila, and 1100 gold. Weehaw, of course, doing well. 2 components to his Aghanims already. He's only 1140 gold away from that full item. Top lane, Slander taking quite a bit of harass. He's got the level 1 in the slow for the Broodmother here, and using the insatiable hunger, looking to dive deeply. He's going to get ravaged under the tower. Anchor Smash Gush is there. He'll finish off the Tide, however. Padrino is going to fall here to the Necroman. But that's just the first kill garnered by this Queen of Pain, and they'll only give her 870 gold on top of the treads, and things elsewhere still looking good. Padrino does find a solo kill before feeding over his own life.
Tidehunter does a really good job at handling the Broodmother, but not when he is all alone up there without any sort of support. Broodmother also out-leveling him by quite a huge margin over towards mid. Glorious Warrior, oh, he's not going to be in trouble just yet. He actually is waiting for his support to come around. Pile Die showing his face, and it will be seen by screen. There goes one stun. There goes the Maledict. Second stun incoming. Pile Die does have a shallow grave, though it won't really help him with the Maledict on him. He's going to try to turn around and with help of Weed try to kill PGG before Pile Die does die himself. There goes the Dazzle. PGG taking one poof. Burrow Strike through 3. And And with Glorious Warrior coming in, PGG might be able to survive, channeling the Death Ward for good measure, but the Yapzor's going to come in with an Impale, kill off the Dazzle, or kill off the Witch Doctor rather, and be happy with that. Padrino is now in position. He's going to start onto Glorious Warrior with the Hex wearing off, and Glorious Warrior is completely surrounded. Duel for free damage, and that's going to be yet another kill for the Broodmother. M5 diving deep just because they have to get what they can, but a little bit too much so. And BBC, they reinforce with heroes you wouldn't really expect to come in. I mean, Mascara was on the bottom lane, Padrino was on the top lane. They brought in everyone, and it worked out pretty well for them. They might even get a tower after this. Not too healthy in the mid lane. He has to watch out for this pure damage. Sonic Wave's gonna fly through. Can he poof out? He's going to get healed a little bit, but it's by far not enough. Overwhelming odds doing a lot of damage to everyone else on Moscow 5. Padrino's still here. Looking to build an army for now. Necroman does dive forward. PGG will end the Maledict on Padrino, but there's no follow-up damage, so it won't really do much at all. 4 heroes now here for Moscow 5 International, but they just can't do anything because BBC, they disengaged. Losing the Meepo, not the best, but they get it out with everyone else.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, they got a little overzealous looking for that tower, and there was TP rotations in, but some free damage, as you mentioned, for Massacre, taking down Glorious Warrior as well, and they're really keeping down them Medusa, 5th overall on the net worth, even under the Tide Hunter for Slander, who's nowhere near a Blink Dagger after that solo death to Padrino, and Padrino looking scarier and scarier. You saw how much they committed mid just to bring down those Spiderlings. There was a Burrow Strike, Scream of Pain, and the Mystic Snake thrown out. Top lane, Slander may be in a bit of trouble, but it's just Pilot Eye and Yapzor. They don't quite have the kill power. Maybe they will with the Finger of Death. And he's dropping pretty low, and there it is. Well paid. Nice patience from Yapzor. Pilot Eye with that level 4 Shadow Wave doing quite a bit of work, and he's got the weave up as well. Blink Dagger now picked up by the LC. Glorious Warrior taking a little bit of harass. Burrow Strike does come out, and they will bring down these Broodlings, presumably, or at least half of them at this point. Weehaw farming up in the jungle is one component away from his Aghanims, and he's only 100 gold from that. And that's going to be a huge pickup 13 minutes into the game.
There's not many places on the map that is safe for Moscow 5 International. Like, it was usually the Broodmother and the Meepo. Those are the two most dangerous heroes, at least in most games it would be. But after losing your Tide Hunter just to a combination of Dazzle and Lion, suddenly it's like, well, no matter what hero we run into, we better have the numbers advantage if you're Moscow 5, if you're going to survive, else you're just going to take a fall. And even if you do have the numbers advantage, with Legion Commander coming in with heals, with Meepo being able to reinforce, and by the way, found Necroman once again, 1 poof, 1 net, and that's a whole lot of beatdown. Lion's gonna steal the kill. Good job, Yapzor, you earned that kill, but it's another death of the Queen of Pain. It's just another place where you can't go. If you can't run into the Meepo, you can't run to the Broodmother, you can't run to the Lion Dazzle, who can you run into, and where could you go to avoid all of that?
Yeah, Blink definitely not going to save the Queen of Pain at this point. Blink up on Yapzor, and he'll be able to blink in Hex and impale up that Queen of Pain, and she's had an absolutely abysmal start at this point. Building into a first item BKB, it's not really going to save her from much. Now she may have been building into the Aghanims and just bought that before death, but either way, only 750 gold up on that Queen of Pain. 1, 4, and 2 thus far. The ward will be scouted out here from the Radiant side. PGG going to place one on the high ground. He'll get a nice bouncing cast, but Duel is going to cancel off the Death Ward. Ravage will be there, however. Nice grave by Pilot Eye. Will they be able to bring the Duel down? They will not. It will be after the duration. PGG dies anyways. Sonic Wave is there to bring down Slander. Blink out from the Queen of Pain. Earthbind will be there on screen, though. And Massacre ends up falling, ticking down, but a 3-for-1. Going the way of BBC on the high ground. They bring down the Queen of Pain as well. That's Yapzor finding the kill. Padrino gonna look to take down this tier 1 as there's no backdoor protection on those, and he will be successful in doing so. Glyph is available and should be popped here from Moscow 5 in, but it doesn't seem like they're gonna notice that, and they will give over the tower to Padrino. Things looking very good. 7,500 net worth and experience lead accrued by BBC up until the 15-minute mark. 17-6 is your score.
It's 15 minutes in, and Screen still doesn't have his Blink Dagger. If he had that, being able to jump in with an Epicenter represents a possible comeback into this game. But, I mean, Ravage was used onto 2. They even had a perfect cask there. It was a neutral Wolf that was randomly there, helping them out quite a bit. But the Grave making sure that the duel wasn't lost by Massacre. He didn't win it either, but it's just a disable at a certain point. Got rid of the Death Ward, so trading 1-1 ultimates there is perfectly reasonable. And no Slander. He is going to be spotted by a whole bunch of bugs. Here comes the Blink. Impale. Finger Death is armed and ready. Will launch and will kill off the big fish. Lion's going to collect that one, and the rest of the Brood's ultimate is going to run into PGG. Screen is here to maybe help him out a little bit, but I don't know if they actually have enough to get a kill onto Padrino, even if they do decide to engage. They're actually going to find Necroman, one net. Here comes the poofing, or just not poofing. Okay, there's the poofing. There it is. And Queen of Pain is also going to fall. Like, the effective range of Moscow 5 is basically all their tier 2 towers. If they go past any of those tier 2s, then they are putting themselves in significant danger. Like, even the tier 1 in the bottom lane is not safe.
Yeah, they immediately smoked after that kill on the Queen of Pain as well. They're going to wrap Meepo towards the Ancients. They're not going to find much, but he will be able to farm up a stack that would have otherwise gone towards Slander's Tidehunter, and his blink will be extremely delayed. In fact, he's opted to build into the mech for the team, so bypassing that blink. But Padrino is going to run into Slander here under the cover of his web. There will be a burrow strike here, but overwhelming odds. Jump forward duel onto Slander. They won't be able to bring him down under the duel here unless the poofs come in from Weehaw. They'll bring him down just after the duel duration. But either way, he doesn't get his Ravage off. Padrino chasing down the Medusa will find him, and the burrow strike from screen is only going to try and sound his retreat. Cask bouncing nicely. Necroman is able to come in here. Does have the Sonic Wave at the ready. Will pop it, but it's only going to delay the inevitable. Do a little bit of chip damage to Weehaw. He'll bring down screen as well. PGG, the last one standing. And speaking of GG called by PGG. 17 minutes into the game, I smell a Meepo ban coming in game 2.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any other way to play around it. Like, he had all the counters to him, like with the exception of Earthshaker, which is another one of those big ones that people suggest, and it would have worked okay, but man, there's no other better way around it. You got to ban him out, I think, up against or you have to, I don't know. I think just banning it out, it has to be done.
Yeah, so perhaps the first preview of the new squad Meeponed in Dota Pit 3 for you guys. Pylai and Weehaw together here, but Padrino and Weehaw really the story of this one, just doing their thing that they've been doing on BBC for a long time. We'll be back with Game 2 shortly, guys. This is the lower bracket SLTV Pro Series Season 11.